Okay, what I'm going to do now is show you guys how to create the rest of the drawing sheets that you need to create for your puzzle cube project. So what you see here is one of the drawing sheets based off the animation file that you created, and it also has a parts list that's labeling the various pieces that are in your drawing. We're also going to create one that shows our entire assembled puzzle cube project, as well as one that shows all the various pieces in the orthographic views, a parts list, assembly views, and the animation as well. So let's go back over here to our file that we started earlier, and so all we're going to do now is create a new sheet and type in the information that is needed for the project. So your name, the name of the project, and the block as well, and then start a new sheet. And now what we're going to do is, first off, we're going to start with the animation file and a parts list. So just like you did earlier with your drawing sheets here, you know, with the base view and your project views, it's kind of the similar process. So come over here, we'll do a base view. And so this time, instead of choosing one of the individual part files, I want to choose my puzzle cube animation. And you can see a preview of it right here in the window. So we're going to choose open. And once this box pops up, what you can see here is that we're going to have to set up our best view. And so for this one, instead of clicking the change view orientation, we just come down here and choose one of these better views. You can see that we have ISO top right, top left, and etc. and so forth. This would be, just find the one that shows the best view of it. So this one looks pretty good. And what I'm going to do this time, and in order for it to, as you can see, show up as color, full colored objects like you see here, this option right here, you see that it says style. We can either have it as hidden lines, solid, or solid with color. We're going to choose solid color, and you can see now that it's put in here. So you'll notice one thing though, that the image is very small for our drawing area. So this is very easy to correct. Let me double click on that view here. When you first import your puzzle cube drawing, when we go through and bring up this dialog box and we're first going in and choosing our shading, over here if you'll notice there are some various scale options that we can choose from. So if you come in here and play around with some of the scales, you'll be able to come in and try to find one that is most appropriate for your drawing. So as you see, this one is just a little too big, as you can see here. So if you end up get one that's too big or too small, don't worry, it's no big deal. Just double click on that view, come down and choose another one. Now these 4:1s, 3:1s, 2:1s, these all enlarge the drawing itself. These 1/2 and 1/4, these all shrink the size of the image itself. So you can see now this is set to 1/4, or I'm sorry, 1/2, or yeah, 1/4. Let's try 1/2 and see what it does. Okay, 1/2 looks a lot better. So 1/2 looks good there. It basically fills up a good portion of my drawing sheet. So what we're going to do now, let me zoom in. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to create the parts list that we're going to use to label this file, or label this image. So over here in the drawing view panels, if you click the little down arrow, you'll see a thing called the drawing annotation panel. If we switch over to that, you'll see that there's a lot of useful tools here for these drawing sheets. So there's things for dimensioning and putting in center marks and things of that nature. You'll learn more about all this general dimensioning and things like that a little later on down in the class. But for right now, what we need to do is, you can see here, if you scroll down a little bit, there's a parts list icon. Click on the parts list icon and it'll bring up your parts list dialog box. What you need to do from here is, you can see that you can select a file or document that's going to be associated with your parts list. So all you do is you select or hit the icon here, browse from file, and just choose the puzzle cube animation file. Or better yet, yeah, choose the puzzle cube animation file and hit open. Okay, once that pops up, we're going to go ahead and click on OK. And so now you can see this box is here, and it's pretty much asking us where we want to put our parts list. So we can just drop it in there, and you can see that it's a little strange looking. It goes over our drawing and things of that nature. That's not that big of a deal, because we can come in here and we can change the parts list up and edit some of the features of it. So you can see here that there's a description thing that has no information in it. It's also very wide and things of that nature. So it's very easy. It's a very easy thing to fix. So just like if you were rescaling an image, you can click on the parts list, select it, and grab these green little arrows and rescale the parts list to fit the open area. So it's best with parts lists here, like this one for example, to get it and slide it into a corner. So if you want to move the parts list, you'll need to put the cursor over probably the text up here, for example, basically anywhere where you see that little arrow, that little 4-directional arrow pop up. So we can click and move the parts list. So you can see that it'll snap on to the edge of the drawing sheet, and that's what we want. And that's pretty much how you would get it into position. So now what we need to do is to set up our parts list. So you can see here where it says description. What we're going to do is double click on the parts list so we can edit the parts list field. So double click on just the parts list, and you can see that this part list dialog box comes up. Okay, and so you can see there's various fields here that are here, and you can go through and edit this parts list. So in order to be able to edit, you can choose this very first icon here called column chooser. Okay, and so once you click on that icon, here's parts list column chooser. You can see here are a lot of various things that you can add to the parts list itself. We're not concerning ourselves with all these various properties. What we're concerning with is the ones that are already existing, which are the selected properties. So you can see here there's item, quantity, part number, and description. So we need to remove the description. So it's very simple. Choose the one that you want to remove, click this remove icon, and then it puts it back over here in the available properties. So we'll just leave behind item, quantity, and part number, and once you get that set up, all you do is click OK, and you can see now the parts list in here is now changed. Once we get that going, click OK again, and you can see now the parts list has now been manipulated and changed. So now you can see the part numbers, the part file, how many of the or a quantity of each piece is needed, and what number they're associated. So now the last step in order to complete this phase is if you come in here, or basically when you look at the part list, you'll see that there's an item number 1 through 5. We need to go ahead and label each of these according to our parts list, and it's a very simple process. It's a thing called balloons. Okay, so if you come over here to the annotation panel again, and above parts list there's a thing called balloon. And so once you put your parts list in, you'll notice that I can you see how as I move the cursor over each piece it turns bright red? That means that you can assign a balloon to each one, labeling each part. So the way this works is you click on the part and you pull off to the side the balloon. So basically it's good to have the arrow, the leader line, come out and then go off to the side, as you can see here. And then once you get it set in place, right click, continue, and you can see now there is my balloon. So you want to be careful though when you do these balloons, because if you do not pay attention, you can very easily have the balloon going all over the place, as you see here, and that's very misleading and very crazy. You only do that when you have a lot of some crazy parts going on. So let me get rid of this one and fix that. So let's you can escape out of it, turn the balloon back on, and then we can go through labeling our object again. So right click, continue, grab the orange one, right click, continue, and you see as I'm going around, it's a very quick and simple process. And once you get this thing going, you honestly can get this drawing sheet, these last sets of drawing sheets, done in no time. So again, you can see now that it automatically puts the numbers for the parts according to the parts list, because what happens is when we first set up the parts list, we assigned it to this file, and the computer's aware enough to be able to associate the number with our parts list. So that's a very easy thing to do, very easy thing to set up.